Welcome, traveler, to Cyberpunk Meets Magic Part 3. This is Eve, and if you haven't yet seen the previous parts, there's a link in the description. The first card is a big guy that should have been on the very first video. Adam Smasher, True Borg, is a legendary artifact human warrior for 4 and Golgari. It's a 6/6 with ward 2 that is indestructible if you control 3 other artifacts with mana value 3 or greater. And whenever he swings, you can sacrifice a creature to reanimate an artifact. And if you choose an equipment, you get to attach it to Adam immediately. Finally, we got to him. Adam calls himself True Cyborg. Being more machine than man, we can very much agree he is right about that. I put him in Golgari to reflect how ruthless he is. Adam forces people through violence, which he very much enjoys, to embrace machine upgrades, showing that survival of the fittest comes through being able to stuff as much cyberware as possible over the weakness of the flesh.
From the moment I understood the weakness of my flesh.
Your average Adam Smasher deck will include cheap utility creatures that want to be sacrificed for value or that can fill your graveyard, like Sati Rayfinder or Primal Druid. Massive artifacts to cheat out are also an obvious must. Argentum Armor for big smacking and removal potential, and Portal to Phyrexia to clear the way and take over the game in just a few turns. Giving Adam Trample and ramping him out with 3 CMC mana rocks is also very important to close out the game, and the sure Smasher is very well protected. Caldra Complete is an overkill way to give Smasher Trample, and Darksteel Ingot is just one of many ways to easily reach that 3 mana high value artifacts count to get him to be indestructible. Delamain Corporation. It's a 0/4 legendary artifact creature robot for Azorius. For 1 and a white, you can animate a vehicle, and whenever a vehicle you control attacks, it becomes sentient, which means that when it attacks again, you randomly choose an effect that occurs. They range from removing it from combat, gaining life, untapping a permanent, getting double strike, or retrieving an artifact from the graveyard. Delamain Corporation is one of my favorite cards in the series. It allows you to build a vehicle deck that runs without pilots. It's obviously an Azorius Corp, since we are looking at an AI that is trying to fit into society with a service delivery system. I thought about making it banned because of how it tries to fit in society and thrive in its environment without changing it, but I couldn't put an AI in green really. Aside from a big chunk of vehicles, your Delamain deck will be looking for ways to cheapen its activated ability. Hearthstone and Training Grounds can save you a lot of mana on the long run. Since you want to relentlessly attack in order to gain benefits from Delamain, you will need cards like Dolmen Gate and Low Shield Clockwork Scholar. These couple of cards will allow you to swing on threatening boards in search for value. Just remember that unless you run an effect like March of the Machine, playing a vehicle won't draw you a card off of Loshin. Goro Takemura, Loyal Guard, is a legendary creature human soldier for 4 and a white. He is a 4/4 with vigilance and reach, and makes you the monarch as it enters. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you are the monarch, you get a treasure and a 1/1 soldier. Otherwise, you get to reanimate a creature from an opponent's graveyard with a finality counter on it and give it haste. Goro is the epitome of white, loyal to the bone, still searching for justice even when he gets discarded by his own corporation. He's a man of honor and duty, willing to risk it all to restore its name and Arasaka's former power. He's got vigilance and reach to protect and stay alert, and when we meet him, he's the bodyguard of one of the strongest men in the world. He got riches and manpower aplenty. But when he loses its status, Takemura literally comes out to dig us back from the grave in order to help him out. Thus, its second ability. If you want Goro to be your commander, you want to run some ways to make sure you have targets to reanimate in your opponent's graveyards, beside running destruction-based removal over exile. A card like Sword of Body and Mind can give Takemura a little boost and grant him protection while also filling your opponent's graveyard. Takemura's ability is deceitful in a way that makes your opponent think you want to keep the monarch, while in truth you can get so much more value by losing it. Running cards like Angelic Ascension and Court of Grace will present your opponents with a lose-lose situation where no matter what they do with the monarchy, you're gonna have the upper hand all the way. Goro is a very expensive card though, and besides giving you the crown, he has no value by himself, if answered promptly. Running cards like Mother of Runes and Dawn Charm can help keeping him alive while also providing a lot of utility. Rogue, Queen of the Afterlife, is a 2/2 legendary creature human advisor for Grixis. She makes a spell you cast on your own creatures cheaper by 1, and she also makes you damage whenever you cast one. Rogue built a strong web of connections and acts as a fixer from the shadow, while still harboring the flame of her old days as a merc. Grixis fits her role perfectly. Her abilities want to tell the story of how she can facilitate the job for others and find the right tools for each gig, while potentially being able to enter into action herself. Your average rogue deck will rely on creatures like Killing Fiend and Dreadhorde Arcanist to gain as much advantage as possible from your combat tricks to either wipe out the competition or cheat high mana value spells Rogue helps you discard to the grave. The deck will very likely also be budget friendly, since it can turn cheap combat tricks like Fist of Flames into very efficient cards. Also, Rogue's Lure ability can enable madness. Just the Wind, for example, sounds better than an unsummon if you also get to draw a card when you madness it. After poking here and there and having filled your graveyard, a card like Mythic's Mastery can bring the game to a spectacular close. Last card of the series is none other than everybody's favorite retired boxer, Viktor Vector, Prim Reaper. He's a 3/2 legendary creature human artificer for Bant. He can tap to put a shield counter on target creature, and if it's not yours, you can also draw a card. He also allows you to equip creatures of other players and taxes those who want to swing at you with modified creatures. Viktor has been around and seen a lot. He is well integrated into society and works as a surgeon. He isn't super concerned about money, as shown at the beginning, where he puts on V an expensive piece of cyberware for just a promise to be paid later. And never again he asks us to fulfill the debt unless we turn it up ourselves. I placed him in Bant for these reasons. His abilities represents him as an outfitter for cyberware that works for any kind of client, and every smart merc knows that you don't make enemies with good rippers. Viktor Vector allows for a unique group hug-ish kind of deck that pushes for outfitting your opponent's creatures and reaping the benefits from it. Cards like Sword of the Animist and Sword of Fire and Ice will trigger for you even if the equipped creatures aren't under your control. Since your opponents may not be so willing to cooperate, cards like Sly Instigator and Maeve Insidious Singer can be handy to make sure those outfitted creatures make good use of their cyberware. A main card that I have to mention here is Skull Clump, being the only card along with Barbed Battle Gear that give negative toughness to equipped creature. They can be used as a removal for utility creatures like Maldorks endlessly. And with that, the Cyberpunk series of custom cards comes to a close. Sorry if your favorite character hasn't made it, but I feel like I covered most of the important ones. If the collection gets a lot of love, I will consider doing 5 more, seeing if I can come up with interesting abilities for them. Little spoiler, the next series will be about Bocce the Rock. If you're curious about that, or other series to come, consider subscribing. And with that, I hope you have a great day. This has been Eve, thanks for watching.